everyone, and welcome to another BioMarine 360. Here, we will be interviewing unique talents, developing innovative products and services, focusing on a sustainable blue economy. Whether it's aquaculture, industry, innovation, policymaking, or research, our goal is to share with you our guests' vision, their impact on the industry, and how it can be applied to your business. Today, I will be interviewing Jason Cole, VP for Innovation at C-Combinator. C-Combinator has a mission to heal the world's oceans, drawing down carbon through marine permaculture, notably focusing on the Sargassum blooms in the Caribbean. I had a chance to meet Jason during a seaweed conference in Scotland earlier this year, where we already engaged on a discussion about the company and building an industry around the Sargassum. Once again, you can check Jason's profile in the BioMarine community, and I'll leave a link below towards the company page. I won't say more for now and let you enjoy the interview.
The Sargassum in the Caribbean is a massive issue. And if you haven't heard about it, there's a new bloom of Sargassum that started probably started in earnest about 5 years ago. And what's happened is the estimates right now is that there are 20 million tons of Sargassum that bloom every year in a band that stretches from Senegal to Mexico across the Atlantic. And that seaweed then washes up onto the shores of the beaches on the Canaries, French Guiana, the Caribbean islands, and Mexico, causing massive ecological damage and as well as social and economic damage. So as it washes up, it damages the seagrass, it damages the reefs, creates anoxic zones, and then as it rots, it lets off hydrogen sulfide and methane, which are toxic to the local environment as well as causing climate impacts. And then, of course, rotting seaweed on the beaches isn't particularly attractive, so the local tourist industry gets damaged as well, impacting people's livelihoods, as well as the health implications of just being on a beach full of rotting seaweed. Breathing in that hydrogen sulfide is actually very, very dangerous. So our approach is to create as much value from the Sargassum as possible to create an economic engine, really, that will both help people remediate the Sargassum problem, but also improve and create economies and improve livelihoods, throughout the region. And so while we're working on the R&D side for marine permaculture, I think that there are a few areas that we started out with. So the first concept for the Sargassum was to create a biostimulant, right? And we know that seaweed can be an effective biostimulant. We also know that most of the current seaweed-based biostimulants are based on Ascophyllum nodosum, which is usually wild harvested, and so we're starting to run into the limits, right, of that harvest, of that sustainable harvest. And so in order to expand the access to seaweed-based biostimulants, that there is definitely room to use other species. And so we did some initial, we did some initial studies. The Climate Foundation did some initial studies about the kind of bioactivity that we could get from the Sargassum, and that kind of formed the key of that was that first piece, that first key to create the biostimulant. We've done a lot of R&D since then, and so we're pretty happy with our version 1 product. We know that we have a roadmap to continue improving it, but we know now that we have a good product, and then we're about to sign some large scale commercial deals, to create access, give access to farmers for that biostimulant. And then once we sort of identified the biostimulant, and then we had kind of the leftover, we had the leftover pulp. I joke, but I keep telling my team, the Sargassum is our buffalo. Like, we will be like the Native Americans, and we will use every piece. And so then we went through and we did some identification of how could we use, obviously then we realized, okay, there's still alginates, there's still cellulose, that there's still other fractions in there that are actually very, actually quite valuable. They're valuable. The interesting thing is that one of the things we discovered through our R&D was that while most alginates used in food, we're discovering that we can actually use this in more in materials, use the extracts and the sargassum more in the materials space, to create additional high value products. And we're sort of opening up. We have the ability now, we think, to open up some new markets and some new areas that are actually quite exciting. And when you've got access to the kind of volume that we have access to, potentially 1 million tons in Mexico, then it opens up that possibility of, it opens up new possibilities. It opens up new markets. Where kind of, that there are some markets where, like, your entry stakes are 50,000 tons, and if you can't do 50,000 tons, then nobody wants to talk to you. And so we know that we can actually get to that scale where we can meet those needs and enter into those markets. Yeah, so that's actually one of the pieces that we're kind of most excited about, is the impact that we can have on the environment, on the social aspect, and on the economic aspect. Just to take kind of one example in the biostimulant space, right? So the biostimulant that we're developing with partners, helps plants through stressful times, right? It helps them when it's too hot or it's too dry, and it gives them some more capacity to kind of, fight off those stresses. So while we may not, we haven't shown that we can improve yields, what we're going to be able to do is, like, keep the yield from dropping in case of a in those stress environments. And when you're dealing with a lot of small farmers throughout the Caribbean, and in Mexico, who are dependent on their annual harvest, and you're entering, as we're continuing to climb that slope of climate change, they're dealing with heat, they're dealing with drought, the plants are dealing with a lot more stress. And so if we can help them at least maintain their yields, and not have disaster years, we're really going to improve the economic climate there, and that of course has social implications as well. And then by creating a value add product that encourages people to utilize the sargassum, we can reduce the impacts on the tourist industry as well, right? So we're not throwing off hydrogen sulfide on the beaches and choking everybody, and we're reducing the methane emissions from the rotting sargassum. And then some of our other products, the biostimulants, as well as some of the other products, we think we can reduce inputs into agriculture, right? We can help with water runoff. We can help with nutrient use. The biostimulants we're developing, some of the ingredients especially with our partners, have shown that they can improve nutrient uptake. So you don't need to put as much fertilizer on your fields. And some of the other products that we're developing will help retain nutrients in the field, so it doesn't run off. So that will economically help the farmers reduce their inputs. You don't have to buy as much fertilizer. You don't have to put on as much water, and then help ecologically in terms of reducing eutrophication, reducing runoff, but also reducing nitrous oxide emissions, right? So we have a climate impact from the agricultural inputs, as well as an economic and a social impact. So we're really excited about the potential, those potential multipliers that we're going to see from the use of our products. And for any sort of startup in this space, it's not easy, right? There's but there's both the R&D component of it, there's the regulatory component of it, there's the efficacy, like in the biostimulant space, there's the efficacy, there's the adoption curve, and that sort of thing. So we have a couple of advantages, right? We have the potential for scale, which not a lot of players in this space have. We have some really good R&D. We have some great scientists working, both internally and externally. And then on the commercial side, we're really focused on our partnership development. So we're working with a number of partners who are already established in the spaces that we want to engage in, and really kind of adding on to what they're doing already with our inputs as well. So we're doing our own product R&D, and then but using our partners, to really create a better product for both, right? For both of us. For example, in the biostimulant space, we're working with some partners who, like I said earlier, have additives, right? They're other biostimulants, including like humic acids and amino acids, that together with seaweed make the product even better, right? And they have the distribution networks that we're going to be tapping into, and working together with our partners. And so in each of these areas that we're targeting, we're developing those commercial partnerships, those product partnerships, to work together to understand and create something of value. Well, I think there are a couple. There's on the on the on the products. So there's both like for us, because we have the product side with the Sargassum now, and we also have the upcoming marine permaculture, kind of things. And those are two completely different regulatory environments, shall we say. But actually, on the product side, I don't think there's anything that's, I mean, I don't think there's anything that's too particularly burdensome. I think they're on the regulatory side, right? I mean, so like the upcoming EU regulations on biostimulants, yes, I think we should actually have to have evidence and data for our efficacy, right? I think that'll help actually clarify the market for more people, rather than be too much of a burden. And then and the other regulatory areas that we're looking at in our other products are really all about safety, right? Like let's not make something that hurts people. Okay, we're okay with that. The area that I think is going to be the most challenging, though, is actually going to be the permitting, and the regulatory environment around actually growing seaweed at scale, right? So getting permits, getting local acceptance, and being able to actually put start putting rigs in the water. We know that there are a lot of areas where that's actually that's a hurdle, and it's a hurdle that hurts not only kind of like our vision of this large scale stuff, but the small farmer, right, who wants to have a seaweed farm, which it can be commercially viable, right? You can be commercially viable at scales under a hectare. But if it takes you 2 years of regulatory approval to be able to put stuff in the water, that's a lot of cost and expense that the small farmer can't overcome. And so that's an area that I think there's work that needs to be done both in Europe and in the United States, to smooth out that regulatory compliance, and make it more of a regular, like, as long as you are, as long like let's make the box that if you're going to play in that box, then it's okay, like it's a pretty smooth process, right? If you want to do something outside that box, okay, great, let's. But I think we know enough now about how to grow seaweed in the water, safely and effectively, that we can make that smoother, make that easier. God, I get to learn something new every day. And I'm always finding, like, there's always new areas to explore, right? And then and that's just for me personally, right? That's not even like looking at the impact that we are going to be able to have on people's lives and on the climate, and so yeah, all of that together, like, yeah, no, this is it. I think I may have actually found the perfect job.